Welcome back to the Movie Draft House. I'm your host Mark, and it's another 5 minute review. And on today's review, we're going to be talking about the really recently released on Netflix series, and it's got 2 seasons that dropped on Netflix as of sometime in the last couple of weeks. This recording is June 16th, so within the last 2 weeks, I think. But it is the Showtime original series, Your Honor, created by Peter Moffat and stars Bryan Cranston, Hope Davis, Michael Stuhlbarg, who else? Lily Kay, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., I love him, and Margot Martindale. But this series made me think of Breaking Bad. And not just because Bryan Cranston's in it, even though he is. And that's like, you watch it and you're like, oh, he's anti-hero like Walter White, which he is. He's very morally gray. I mean, at times, unethical and immoral. But the premise of this series is that Bryan Cranston is Michael Desiato, and he's a widower. His wife was murdered a year ago in the show, and he's a judge in New Orleans. And his son, Adam, who's played by Hunter Dohan, is in the first episode, so I'm not spoiling anything here, but the first episode, his son Adam is going to an area in New Orleans where his mother was murdered to leave a picture and some flowers. It's the anniversary of her death. And so he's driving on his way. So he goes there, leaves the flowers, and then he's, I guess, on his way back. And he's got asthma, and so he starts having like an asthma attack, and he reaches for his inhaler, and the inhaler falls to the floorboard. And he's reaching, and he's like steering, and he's like looking back, and he takes his eyes off the road for a split second. He veers into the other lane and hits a motorcycle that was in the other lane. That's driven by another teenager, and kills him. And so Adam panics and leaves the kid there. He calls 911, but doesn't say anything. Hangs up. Tries to kind of cover it up once he gets back home. And then Bryan Cranston shows up at the house, and Adam tells him what happened. And then Bryan Cranston's like, okay, I understand that's what happened. Let's go to the police. And he consciously decides to do the right thing by his son, and because it's the right thing to do. They get to the police department in New Orleans, and they walk in, and they see a man and a woman getting, bad news from a police officer. And the woman immediately wails and just falls, and the man catches her. And so Bryan Cranston sees these people, and he's like, oh shit, we got to go. And so they go back and they get in the car. And his son Adam's like, hey, what happened? I thought we were going to talk to the police. And he's like, no, do you know who that was? Talking about the people receiving the bad news. And Adam was like, no. And Bryan Cranston's like, that's what's his face? Something Baxter, Jimmy Baxter. And he's the main crime boss in New Orleans. He goes, if we were to tell the police that you killed his son, you would be dead tomorrow, because he would put a hit out on you and all this. So the rest of the show for the entire first season is Bryan Cranston attempting to save his son. And his son is having moral conflictions, just not sure what the right thing to do is. He's a very bright student. He's got a big future ahead of him. It's his senior year in high school, and he's going to go to NYU, and he's got a bright future. And this would derail everything. So Cranston decides, hey, I'm going to take the rap for this if something happens. But every episode and the whole story, the whole first season. And there's 2 seasons, so I haven't watched the second one, but I've watched the entire first season. It's almost like there's no winning for these characters, at least main characters. There's just no winning. Everything is just thrown at them, and they're just getting hit by brick after brick after brick. And one thing I don't like is that it doesn't seem like anybody gets ahead, and there's a lot of threads here, and so the story does get a little bit convoluted because there's crime boss and there's a court case and there's Adam and he's got his stuff going on and it's just there's a lot going on and it's very good. I like it. The cinematography is great. The acting's phenomenal. Bryan Cranston is excellent. But so is Isaiah Whitlock Jr. and Margot Martindale. Those are your heavy hitters. But I could see where people wouldn't like it because it is very heavy. It just like weighs on you. There's just a ton that continues to happen, and it doesn't seem like these characters make any headway by the end of the first season. And by the finale, you're just like, holy shit, what the hell else is going to happen? And so I'm anxious to watch the second season to see where it goes. But I recommend it. Give it a watch. It's on Netflix now, both seasons. And as far as I know, it's the only 2 seasons. And let me know in the comments what you thought of it. What you can also do is hit the subscribe button when it pops up so you don't miss any future content right here on the podcast. And you can follow the podcast on all your favorite social media platforms, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, right here on YouTube. So give us a like, follow, subscribe, and don't forget the podcast releases weekly every Thursday on your favorite podcast streaming platform. And we'll catch you next time.
My best friend just threw me in the deep end.
I've got this, John.
I don't think you have.